Yeah. It gives kind of, you talked a minute ago about we were talking about the race issue and stuff where they project things. This is I've been listening to Scott Adams a lot lately. He's the comic strip writer for Dilbert.
Right, right.
And
Uh-huh. Yeah.
now sometimes I disagree with him, but he has a very, most of the time, has a unique take on what's happening, and he comes from a perspective of how a person presents themselves from a persuasion standpoint and stuff like that. But he had a very interesting 3 minutes on his podcast a couple of days ago talking about the difference between Republicans and Democrats, and this is just brilliant. Take a listen to this.
If you've noticed this pattern, Republicans, for the most part, and this is going to be a gross generalization, right? So I'm not going to say every Republican, and I'm not going to say every Democrat. Just in your mind, you should always translate that I never mean every single person. Would it be true that Republicans tend to be Christian or Christian, let's say Christian biased, meaning that they tend to be influenced by the Bible and by that, that teaching, even if they're not actively religious, they probably came from that, cultural thing. And one of the biggest elements of Christianity is forgiveness. In fact, there's almost nothing more central to Christianity than forgiveness, right? Second chance, you can make up for it in heaven. It's all about forgiving sins. The Democrats, on the other hand, tend to be a little more godless, at least some of the protesting active ones appear to be. And they seem to have a philosophy that is not forgiveness, it's hate. And it's hate based on anything you've ever done. But here's the weird part. It's hate based on imagined sins. So here's the distinction. Republicans will, by choice, this is actively their philosophy, they will forgive you for actual real sins, including, you saw the president do that First Step Act. If you can get your life together in prison, learn something and, serve some of your time, you are forgiven. You're Alice Jones, and you're forgiven. You're released. And I think Christians actually mean that. I think that's really baked into them, that, you can do some pretty bad stuff, but if you are genuinely, forgiving and you do something with your life, you can be forgiven. It's the opposite with Democrats. They actually will imagine something that you did. We imagine that you are racist. We imagine that you hate us. We imagine that you're guilty because of something your ancestors did, something like that. And you are guilty forever, and the stain can never be washed off. That's a big difference, isn't it? Look for that pattern. Republicans and Christians being forgiving of real sins, Democrats being permanently condemning of imaginary sins. That's pretty different.
That is really, really great. People should really listen to that, because it is so true. And it's just, you see it on a day-to-day basis. Mm-hmm. He's absolutely 100% right. And, you have to just wonder, what in the world, what do they not have any core? A lot of them, I know that there are many, just like he says, you can't paint with a broad brush and say every single one, because there's some, Republicans that are not so great either.
Right.
But down to your core, you have got, in order to do some of these things, it's really awful. It's horrible.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think that was very well said, the way he put it. And that's been my experience with so many people. They're willing, the Republicans are willing to forgive and overlook and give you a second chance and give you a hand and say, you know what, I'm going to give you a hand up, but I'm not going to give you, a check every week.
Right.
You're going to make it on your own. You're going to have self-esteem. You're going to feel good about yourself. The Democrats don't like that either. They want you to be a slave to them and chained to your mailbox so you get your welfare check every week.
Yeah.
Don't advance. Don't get better. Don't become better because you can't. I mean, that's just the whole mindset that's so different.
Yeah. So when I heard that, I was in my car and I'm like, wow, he just really. It's one of those things like you instinctively know. It's like when as he's articulating you, I'm like, yes, 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 that's exactly it. It's like.
Yeah, I know it. I
So
know it.
well, let's talk a little.
Very, very true. We got a battle though, John, in this country. I mean,
Yeah.
it is a prophecy, coming to pass that the Bible speaks about, and it's a very big test for us.
Yeah.
And we've just got to make sure that right wins. I mean, we have to fight because right has to win.
Exactly.
Otherwise, we're going to just. I can't even imagine. I can't even imagine the other option.
Yeah.